Welcome everyone to auDA's March webinar on .au Direct, Australia's newest domain namespace. I'm Michael Lewis, auDA's Industry Relations Manager. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which I'm coming to you from today, the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, and would like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Please note this session is being recorded. And as we have a lot to cover today, without further ado, I'll hand over to auDA's CEO, Rosemary Sinclair, to kick things off. Rosemary, over to you.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks everybody for joining us today. We're here to talk about .au Direct, which is the first AU domain new namespace to launch in 20 years. So we're very excited that auDA is innovating in the .au domain, and we're excited about the benefits of this innovation and what they will bring to Australian internet users. Some of you would have joined our first webinar on this topic last year, but I'm sure that some of you are new to auDA or new to .au Direct. So I'll take just a few moments to recap on what .au Direct is and how it's going to deliver value to internet users. And then I'll hand over to our Chief Operating Officer, Bruce Tonkin, and Bruce will take you through some of the practical online resources that auDA has created to help with .au Direct registration, and we'll walk you through the registration process. As always, we're more than happy to take your questions. Please use the Zoom Q&A function during the session, and we'll cover the questions at the end of the presentation. So before I touch on .au Direct, I wanted to give you a quick update on growth in the .au domain overall. auDA currently manages more than 3.4 million domain names in .au. And in the last 24 months, we've seen net registrations rise by more than 240,000 names. That's been driven by registrations of small businesses in com.au, and often in response to the COVID pandemic situation in which they found themselves. With such demand for with such demand for .au names by businesses, it may come as no surprise that com.au is far and away the most popular namespace and currently accounts for around 90% of all .au domain registrations. Next is net.au and then org.au, which holds 6% and 2% of the names. With such strong demand, plans for the evolution of the .au domain have been underway for some time. We've seen that the way consumers are using the internet has evolved. Websites are often now reached by mobile devices, so shorter names are helpful for users. Small startups that are considering entering the market and in their earliest phase may not yet have registered an ADN, and therefore they're not eligible for a com.au name. Companies undertaking marketing campaigns often now set up microsites, needing short and different domain names. And new options are being sought by individuals with hobbies or those wanting to register their own names for email addresses. auDA seeks to support a .au domain that evolves to meet the needs of consumers for innovative products and services. And of course, like any business, we also have regard to what's going on elsewhere, what innovations we see. And we've seen several international jurisdictions adopting shorter domain names through direct registration. For example, New Zealand, France, and the United Kingdom. Users overseas have embraced these new namespaces. In New Zealand, .nz accounts for 20% of total registrations in the New Zealand domain, and it's growing faster than the traditional co.nz. In the United Kingdom, .uk registration makes up 12% of UK domains and accounts for 16% of new registrations for the UK domain. We know Australians are equally keen for innovation in the .au domain. This was confirmed through a series of community consultations starting in 2015. We know our new namespace, .au direct, will be every bit as successful as the innovation in other domains, and knowing Australians, probably more so. So we're very pleased to be in a position to introduce .au direct on the 24th of March, 2022. .au direct will allow users to register names directly before the .au, like the examples you see here, Pavlova.au and Stoked.au. We know the .au direct namespace will be popular with new and existing registrants, including Australian businesses. The new namespace will deliver a greater choice of available names, allow registration of shorter, more memorable names, and provide a choice of new names that are easier to type and display on mobile devices. Importantly, anyone who has a validated Australian presence or can establish a validated connection to Australia, such as an Australian trademark, will be eligible to register for a .au direct name. These rules are designed to give great flexibility while maintaining the integrity of the .au domain and keeping it recognisably Australian and trusted. .au direct will be available to a wide range of potential registrants, including businesses who want to create a microsite for marketing or other purposes, micro businesses taking the first foray from an online marketplace to their own established web presence, associations establishing a new presence, individuals wanting to use their own name for branding or business purposes. And I'm absolutely sure there'll be many other exciting examples. Now, some of you will be thinking, but I already have an existing .au domain name. Will I get the first opportunity to register the matching .au direct name? And the answer is yes. auDA has created a comprehensive priority allocation process to ensure existing registrants have fair opportunity and priority to register their corresponding direct name. The priority allocation period will start on the day of launch, the 24th of March, and run for 6 months. So there's plenty of time. There's no need to rush. In summary, from the 24th of March, 2022, existing .au domain name registrants will have the first opportunity to apply for priority status to register their existing domain name in .au direct. For example, if you are the registrant of getyour.com.au, on the 24th of March, you can apply for getyour.au. This process is completely optional. If you choose not to register in the new .au direct namespace, your existing name will continue to function provided your registration remains up to date. At the end of the 6-month priority allocation period, if no applications have been received from existing registrants for a matching .au direct name, others will be able to apply. In the very small number of cases where there are more than one applicant for priority status, at the end of the priority period, the .au direct name will be allocated according to the category rules, and Bruce will explain those shortly. I appreciate that if you're new to domain names, there's a bit to take in, particularly around the details of the priority allocation process. But to help you out, we've created a range of resources, including fact sheets, blogs covering commonly asked questions, interactive tools to support the registration process, among others. And you'll find them all on our website. To keep on top of developments in the .au domain and auDA's operations, you can also become a member of the .au. Membership is free, and you can join quickly and easily via the link on our website. auDA is working hard to undertake a broad campaign to raise awareness for .au Direct. And many of you will have already seen and heard of the campaign. I put up some examples earlier of billboard images. And here's another example for our digital channels. The campaign clearly and simply demonstrates that with just 2 simple letters, you can create a whole new and uniquely Australian web address. The campaign is about the possibilities of the new namespace. We've developed microsites for each of the domain names featured in the campaign, and those microsites set out the benefits of .au Direct and provide details of the accredited registrars where people can apply to register for .au Direct names. We hope the campaign leads Australians to consider what .au Direct might change for them, what possibilities, what benefits might come with a .au Direct name. And with that, I'll now hand over to our Chief Operating Officer, Bruce Tonkin, to take you through some of the specifics of the .au Direct registration process. As a reminder, if you have any questions, please put them in the Zoom Q&A and we'll answer as many as we can towards the end of our session. Bruce, over to you.
Thank you, Rosemary. If we can just jump to the key dates and times. So in the registry, we have multiple time zones across Australia, particularly during daylight savings time in some states. And we also have registrants spread around the world. So we operate the registry using the International UTC time standard. But just to translate that into Australian Eastern Daylight Time, the cut-off date, so any name that's registered before 11 AM on the 24th of March will be eligible to participate in the priority allocation process. And the registry opens up for new registrations at 1 PM on the 24th of March. So next slide. During the priority allocation period, which runs from March to September this year, there are 3 separate processes relating to registering domain names in .au Direct. The first of these is similar to registering a .com.au, so it's registering a brand new name that isn't otherwise in the registry. And then there is a process for registering a name where there is only one match to your domain name. So if you have the .com.au, typically you will be the only person with that .com.au name. And then finally, the multiple match, which usually applies to names that are sort of generic English words that might be registered in .com.au, net.au, auDA, and any of the other namespaces. So next slide. So firstly, a standard registration. So this applies where you're just searching for an available name. The registrant, once you've found a name that you want to register and it's available to register, you need to provide some information so that the registrar can validate that you have an Australian presence. And in most cases, for an Australian business, sole trader, or not-for-profit organisation, you would provide your ABN number, just as you do currently for registering in .com.au or net.au or auDA. If you are an organisation outside of Australia that has an Australian trademark, then you would provide the Australian trademark number. And if you're Australian citizen or Australian permanent resident, and you don't otherwise have an ABN, in other words, you're not trading as a sole trader, then typically you'd provide your driver's license. Now, many of the registrars are really focused on business-to-business transactions, so they generally provide services to other businesses, and they have highly automated processes around ABN numbers. As registrars start to expand their offerings to citizens or Australian permanent residents, you'll find that the license process is probably a manual process, and it may take a little longer to process your registration. You can register for 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 years, which is the same for the other names in the registry. And once the name is registered, it's available for use in the DNS immediately. So basically on the 24th of March, you'll actually see .au names going live in the DNS, and websites will immediately start to operate. Next slide. A lot of people use the auDA website, I guess, to find the rules and the policies, but we also have a search box available on the front page of our website. You can type in domains that you might wish to register. And if we go to the next slide, if you search for a name, we just search within the .au registry. So if you go to a registrar site, they'll often offer you options for names and other namespaces. Our search box just returns the options for names in the .au registry. And so if you were to search for a name, and I just picked an example here, which was Saturday domains, you can see it's available for registration in NetAU, auDA, ASN. And from the 24th of March, it will also show you if the name's available for registration in .au. On the right-hand side, you can, if you select a name that you're interested in, the website will bring up a list of registrars that you can use to register that name. So fairly straightforward. And you'll see on the 24th of March, a tool that will help you find an available name. So next slide. What we're expecting to happen on the 24th is that many existing holders of domain names in the registry, so those that have .com.au, NetAU, auDA, will want to register their matching .au name. The first thing to check is to see whether there are more than one matches to your name. So you simply go to our priority status tool that's on our website, type in your domain name, and it will tell you whether you're the only person that has a matching name or if there's other people with matching names. The majority of cases, and this is sort of 95% of the cases, will be that you're the only one with a domain name in the .au registry. You can register the matching.au with your current registrar, and that'll be very straightforward. You just contact your current registrar and just say that you'd like to register the matching name, and that process will happen on the same day. The registrar will check to see that your underlying registration, so if you have a .com.au, they'll confirm that you're currently registered for that .com.au. So you should make sure that your name has got a current ABN number or Australian company number, or in case of incorporated association, it's got current information. That will be checked before you can apply. And then when you apply, you're applying using the same information. And again, you can register for 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. We also support a competitive market. So if when you go to your current registrar and they tell you the price for the .au direct name, if you find that that's, you think you can get a better offer, then you are free to actually register with any of the registrars. And to do that, you need to provide a priority token, which is basically proof that you are the holder of the matching name. Provide that to the registrar, and then you can go ahead and register the name. That's fairly similar to the process if you want to transfer your existing registration to another registrar. You get what's called an authorization code, and to go to the new registrar and you provide that code. So the process will be very similar. If you go to the next slide, we'll have a website that's located at priority.auda.org.au, and on that website you'll be able to get your authorization code or priority token. You simply enter your domain name, and then an email will be sent to your email address that's recorded in the registry as the registrant contact. you click through the link in that email address, it will take you to a website where you'll be able to retrieve your priority token. And again, this is really only needed if you wish to register your name with a registrar that's different to your current registrar. Next slide. The other scenario, which as I say, only applies in about 5% of cases, is where there are multiple people that are eligible to apply for the .au name. You'll be able to see who those people are by using the priority status tool. We'll give you a list of matching names. Here the process is much the same. You can either register with your current registrar or a different registrar using your priority token. But here the name doesn't get immediately registered. What happens is your name goes into a pending registration status, and then the registry will look at the status of all the other potential applicants for the domain name. And if the name can be allocated to you, that will happen the following day. So, for example, if you're a person with a name in what's called category 1 and all the other potential applicants are in category 2, if you apply for your name in category 1, it will get allocated to you the following day. If there are more than one people in category 1, then those people need to reach an agreement before the name can be allocated, and that could take a longer period. Next slide. Quite a common scenario that we've seen is to the extent that there are matches where there are multiple people with the same name, it's in most cases also registered to the same company, sometimes with a different legal entity. So big companies might have multiple legal entities. One's registered the .com.au and the other's registered the .net.au, but effectively it's the same organisation. In that case, to get the name allocated, you need to explicitly apply for one of the potential names. So in this case, for example, .com.au, and explicitly decline the opportunity to apply for the other names. So in this case, the .net.au. So apply for one, decline for the other situations, and then the name will be allocated to you the following day. So it's a very common scenario with larger companies. Next slide. So the situation where you need to explicitly decline, again, you go to the same website that you use to retrieve your priority token. You'll see that there's a decline to apply button. Select that button on the right of the page, enter your domain name. It will then send a confirmation email to your email address that's recorded in the registry. You need to click on that email and then explicitly decline. And this is a one-way operation. So once you decline, you can't apply again. And the status of the name being declined will show in the priority status tool. This is the same process if you reach an agreement with another potential applicant and you reach some sort of commercial resolution and you've decided to decline your application or withdraw your application. You use exactly the same process and go to the website and click decline to apply and decline. Next slide. So that what I've covered so far is the processes for registering a brand new name, registering a name if you've got a single match, and registering a name if you've got a multiple match. There is one other change that's happening on the 24th of March, and that is to the ID.au rules. So to register a ID.au, which stands for individual, it needs to match your name, or needs to be an abbreviation, or needs to be a nickname of the person. So for me, my name's Bruce Tonkin. So I could register bruce.id.au, brucetonkin.id.au, or tonkin.id.au. My initials are BAT, so as an abbreviation, I could register bat.id.au. What I can't do, and used to be allowed under the old rules, is I can't register a personal interest or hobby. So I couldn't register something like chess.id.au because that's not my name. And the intent is with the new .au rules, those citizens or permanent residents that want to create a website for their personal interest or hobby, the place to do that is now in .au. Next slide. And one other thing I wanted to just remind people of is that there's often discussion that .au is a new namespace and it has less rules than .com.au or .net.au may have had. The reality is the core rules are still the same. And the core rules in .au is that you can't use a domain name to facilitate any conduct that is illegal or unlawful or fraudulent. And you can't use your name, even inadvertently, that might compromise the security of the DNS. And so we'll continue to be monitoring names, making sure that they're complying with the rules, and we'll continue to take action if names are being used for phishing, malware, or botnets. So it's not a open slather space like some other namespaces around the world. .au Direct adheres to the same essential rules that all the other namespaces do in .au, and that's all about ensuring that the Australian population can trust using .au, that it is a safe namespace. So that is my final slide.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Bruce. We now have time for a few questions. Rosemary and Bruce are happy to take. Please feel free to keep adding them to the Zoom Q&A as you go, and we'll try to get through as many as we can. Bruce, I think the first one probably best for you. We've had a couple of questions about the cost of .au Direct and whether it'll be on par with current registration types. Are you able to talk on that?
Yes, the wholesale price for .au Direct, which is the price registrars pay, is the same price as for .com.au, .net.au and auDA. So you expect .au Direct to be similar prices to what you currently pay for any of the other names. And naturally that varies by registrar, depending on the level of service they provide. But we have seen prices, for basically as little as essentially the cost of lunch. Cost of a hamburger and a drink would get you a .au Direct name.
It's terrific. And there'll be an application fee, won't there, for the priority allocation process?
Yes, that's right. So in that multiple match scenario that I referred to, you can't immediately register the name because there are multiple potential applicants. And so the fee to apply for a .au Direct name is the same as the registration fee. When the name is allocated, so if you've applied for the name on the 24th of March and it gets allocated on, say, the 10th of June, the new registration will have a 1-year registration from the 10th of June, and the cost of that 1-year registration is included in the application fee.
Excellent, thank you. Rosemary, we've had some questions about the consultation process for .au Direct and who auDA spoke to before then. Would you mind touching on that a bit, please?
Happy to, Mike. The consultation was really extensive and started in 2015 with a names policy panel being established. They held 2 6-week-long public consultations, and after that they recommended the introduction of the what we call .au Direct namespace. But they said to auDA, further work is needed on the priority allocation process, which Bruce has just been talking about. So that work was done with the 2017 policy review panel. And again, that panel undertook public consultation over a 12-month period. And after that process, made a recommendation for the priority allocation process that we've just been talking about. A lot of work was done on all of that. And then in 2019, there was a further public consultation process on the final report of the 2017 panel. That included a series of face-to-face forums and online workshops, so a very open process. And following those consultation processes, the auDA board considered all the views, written submissions, and a separate survey of 97,000 registrants. and found that the majority of respondents were in favour of .au Direct. So it was on the basis of all that consultation over many years that the auDA board decided to proceed with the new namespace.
And just following on from that vein as well, we've had a couple of questions about further consultation on .au Direct after launch. Does auDA have any plans to speak to business groups on the way forward? And also another linking into that, we've had a question about the registrars and our consultation with them.
Look, in fact, the consultation is a bit of a byword at auDA, because we have a really important responsibility, which in its most colloquial form, I always say what we do at auDA is we run Australia's part of the internet. And we do that with a very particular lens, and that is we do our work for the benefit of all Australians. So consultation is extremely important to us. Understanding how Australians are using the internet, both at the consumer or household level and the small business level, that has led us to start a process of researching every year, whether we're looking at new namespaces or not. Every year we're looking at the digital lives of Australians to see what role the internet is playing in their lives, what matters are of concern to them, what challenges might they be experiencing that we can help with. But there's also another element to auDA, and that is a very specific mandate about how we are to do our work. And the how is that we're to use multi-stakeholder processes. And the real essence of that little phrase, which sounds as if it's a bit technical, is that everyone has a voice, but an equal voice. So we talk to businesses all the time, including the businesses of registrars, but importantly, small businesses and business associations. We talk to organisations representing consumers and their interests. We talk to academics. We talk to the research community. We talk to governments, but we treat them all equally in terms of their role in providing input about what's important and what's challenging. And we use that information all the time to work out how to improve our services and to evolve the .au domain. And .au Direct is an example of the outcome of those sorts of processes. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And we have had a few questions about the recording and the slides being available. So I'll take the opportunity now to say yes, they will after. We're happy to send the recording out to anyone who may want to follow up, and particularly people at staff that couldn't attend. Just on that vein too, Rosemary, while you're doing such a good job linking together all the questions that are coming in thick and fast for me. So just on the research that auDA has done, how has it sort of informed our views on what people will actually do with .au Direct? We've had some questions about justifying the different types of domains that people are after. Did the research find anything particularly that we've found links in quite well with that?
Well, look, the main things that we've referred to earlier in the presentation about simpler, shorter, accessing via mobile devices, that was a set of issues just about accessibility and ease. What we've also seen, though, is the development of, tiny little businesses in our economy whose only choice up until the launch of .au Direct has been a platform, a marketplace, where there are all sorts of rules and limits on what people can do. That change to our economy has really been emerging over the last 10 years. People talk about the digital transformation, they talk about the gig economy, they talk about micro businesses, mumpreneurs. All of those words mean that there are very, very small businesses making very significant contributions through innovation and creativity to our overall economy. And we saw that in spades during COVID. We saw hundreds of thousands of small businesses, some of whom jumping online for the first time, some of whom had been online but developing their offerings. So this push by Australian small businesses for digital ways of doing things, and fortunately they did that for those who liked our coffee and wanted to still get it during the pandemic, that kind of innovation, I think we've just seen the tip of the iceberg. And providing this way for tiny little businesses to come in and establish a direct online presence, I think is going to unleash enormous innovation in the economy. And we do what we do at auDA for the benefit of all Australians. So meeting those evolving needs with new products is exactly the sort of thing we should be doing. And that's what we heard during our consultations.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Rosemary. Bruce, I might throw to you. We've had quite a few questions coming about the priority application process, and we know there are a few different parts to that. So I'll just try and group a few of them together, but just starting from the priority application and allocation process, is that now set in stone, and how will that be managed, and who by?
Yeah, so the priority allocation process was basically developed by the 2017 policy review panel. And essentially we divide names into category 1 and category 2. So any name that's registered before February 2018 is category 1. And any name registered after February 2018 is category 2. Category 1 applicants have priority over category 2 applicants. So if somebody's had a name for 10 years and then somebody registers in com.au and then someone registers a net.au tomorrow, then that person in category 1 will have priority. If there are multiple category 1 names, so that's typically the case where generic names have been around for 10, 20 years, and there's multiple applicants that have websites that have been running those names for many years, then the name won't be allocated until all of those parties reach an agreement amongst themselves. And if they don't reach an agreement, then the .au direct won't be allocated. With respect to more recently registered names, so names registered in the last 2 or 3 years, the order of priority is basically in order of creation date. So if somebody registered a com.au and then someone else thought, gee, that looks like a good name, I think I'll register it net.au, then the person that thought of the name first will have priority. So that's a high-level summary of the priority allocation process. We have lots of help material on our website, and I posted a link in the answers with a link to that material. And if people have further questions for their individual cases, they're welcome to send us a question to our inquiries page on our website, and we'll answer typically within 24 hours.
Terrific. We've had some questions about proving identity, and if people don't have driver's licenses, can you just reiterate again the types of validation that people would need to provide or can provide?
Yeah, there's quite an array. I've mentioned driver's license because a lot of people will have that sitting in their pocket or their purse or handbag. But other forms of ID include passports. That's particularly relevant for people that perhaps live overseas and they're Australian citizens, but they're not resident in Australia. We also accept the more traditional forms of ID that a bank would accept. So things like things like birth certificates, even things like shooters licenses and so forth. So it's about 10 different forms of ID, but basically the same form of ID that you would need if you were to open a bank account, basically.
Terrific. And we've had a couple of questions about the category 2 application process. Do you have to, if you have multiple category 2 names, is it just a matter of applying for the one that had the earliest creation date, or do you have to decline with all your others as well?
Yeah, in the case of category 2 names, you just apply for the name that's got the earliest creation date, yes. And you don't need to decline the others because the one with the earliest creation date will automatically have priority.
And will the priority be affected by what namespace you've chosen? So does com.au have priority over net.au, for example?
No, all the priority is based on creation dates. And so any name in the registry is treated the same, whether it's in a commercial namespace or a non-commercial like .org.au or education, edu, or even government gov.au. We give everybody the same priority based on the creation date of the domain name.
And I might try and bundle a super question in to finish up just because we're running out of time. But we had a few questions about the eligibility and one related to id.au and with the rule changes, how that would affect if you currently hold an id.au name and you're using that to apply for a .au direct name. And if you held the id.au name for a hobby and are no longer eligible, what you need to do. And also just about sort of, whether I'll just try to paraphrase here, whether your eligibility changes for your existing namespace, what you might need to do before you apply for the .au direct name.
Okay, quite a lot of questions in that.
Try to wrap them all up before we finish up.
So essentially with a id.au, firstly, after the 24th of March, you won't be able to renew your name if it's a hobby or an interest. So if I have chess.id.au, I won't be able to renew it after the 24th of March. If I have chess.id.au and it's, let's say, 1st of April and it's a currently valid license, then I am eligible to apply for chess.au. Note, however, where these generic names are in play, then there's usually other applicants. And so the process for priority then is based on those priority registration rules. For example, whether you've got a id.au, which is category 1, or whether it's category 2. And so the normal process applies.
Terrific. Well, as we're just right on time, I might throw back to Rosemary just to wrap up for us.
Terrific. Thanks, Mike. Just checking that I wasn't on mute. We're all getting used to managing that. Just very much and very simply to thank everybody for joining us today. We're really grateful for your interest and participation as shown by the questions. As Bruce said, if you have any further questions, please just use our ordinary inquiry channels to let us know. And we'll get back to you very, very promptly. In the lead up to the launch and of course beyond the launch, we'll continue to update you on developments in .au and particularly .au direct through our website materials. But before we sign off, there are 2 events that I wanted to bring to your attention particularly. On the 9th of March, and in particular for .au members, we're having a presentation from the CTO and co-founder of Cinch Security, who'll be talking about protecting small business and customer data. So in particular, a call out to our members to join us for that. If you're not a member, please join us. It's free and it's really, really simple, again, via our website. And on the 13th of April, we'll be hosting the eSafety Commission to talk about keeping Australians safe online. And we'd really welcome everybody to join us for that and register through the link that's on the screen. Again, more information on both those events is on our website. So let me conclude again by thanking you for joining us today and saying that we're really looking forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe. Bye-bye.